Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Nikki and today we are going to be making 5 different baking mixes that you can keep in your pantry and take out whenever you need a quick snack. For all of the recipes, we are going to be needing some flour. I store my flour in these 19-liter containers because it keeps it nice and fresh. We're going to be needing baking soda, baking powder, some cocoa powder, and some brown sugar. Let's see if I can not get lost. Most of the recipes have similar bases, so we are just going to keep all of the ingredients out and use them as we need them. So let's get started with the first one. The first recipe is the chocolate chunk muffins. Now, if you are going to be making all 5 of these in bulk like I have, you might want to consider getting a huge bag of flour from Costco or your local bulk food store because you're going to be burning through it. I'm not even sure if I have enough. So we'll find out. We're going to be starting with 7.5 cups of flour. Now we are going to move on to brown sugar. It is 3 cups of brown sugar. We also buy our sugar in bulk. We buy brown sugar and white sugar. I know you can make your own brown sugar, and that is definitely on my to-do list at some point. But honestly, sometimes things are not always worth the effort that you go through. And sometimes I wonder if making sugar is one of those things. It's 1 full cup of cocoa powder. We're going to do 6 teaspoons of baking soda. It's 1.5 teaspoons of salt. Then we are going to give it a quick mix. Okay, I would not say that first one went super smooth, but the recipe is very delicious. So I'm gonna overlook all those mistakes that I made of spilling everywhere, for instance. If you're doing this, a funnel, probably not a bad plan. Okay, recipe number 2 is going to be brownies. This is the best brownie recipe I have ever found. Everybody that I make it for completely falls in love, so I know you will love it too. To be a little bit more accurate for this recipe, I am using a kitchen scale. This is the way that I make it every single time, and it always turns out. I'm doubling or tripling or quadrupling each recipe depending on how big the recipe is. This one I think I'm going to triple. So to begin, we're gonna do 225 grams of cocoa powder. 190 grams of flour. As I said in my last video, the snack video recipe, all of these are going to use all-purpose flour. You could swap in some whole wheat flour, but again, if you're switching your family from a processed diet, make something that the kids and you guys will actually enjoy eating, and then work on making it as nutritious as you possibly can. Now we're going to be doing cornstarch. This one's not weighed, it's just 3 tablespoons. 1 teaspoon of salt. And then for this recipe, we're going to be using granulated sugar, not brown sugar. So let me grab that. And this recipe calls for 750 grams of sugar. Keep in mind that these recipes are tripled, and yes, it is a lot of sugar, but again, this is just for a treat to replace the boxed brownie mix that you might find at the store. Now we need some chocolate chips. When I went to Costco yesterday, I was going to buy the chocolate chips, and then I saw that they were $30. And yes, it lasts us for a while, but I just couldn't even fathom spending $30 on that. So we buy these little chocolates that come wrapped, which is kind of annoying. We just break them up into our batters. The third recipe that we are going to do is an apple spice bread. This is a very delicious recipe and kids devour them. They're so soft because of that applesauce. So they get started the same way with some flour. 2 cups of brown sugar. 2 teaspoons of baking soda. 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt. 1 teaspoon of baking powder. 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. And 1/2 teaspoon of nutmeg. So this recipe does use nuts, and we have a nut allergy in this family, so I'm just gonna leave them out. You could put nuts in, and I will post those recipes in the description box below. You could also use shredded coconut, but I think today I'm just gonna leave this as a smooth bread. Recipe number 4 is granola bars, and this is going to show you how to batch prep the granola bars that I made in last week's video, so you have them in bulk whenever you need to make a batch. We're gonna start with 4 cups of rolled oats. We are going to be using some chocolate, some shredded coconut. You could use nuts or seeds if you wanted instead. We're gonna do 1.5 cups of coconut. I like to do a dash of cinnamon and a little pinch of salt, and then the chocolates. And then give it a mix. And this is just from my canning. They're super, super cheap, and they're perfect to fill jars. Well, you saw in the first video where I spilled literally everywhere. Oops. If you were to swap out the chocolate chips in this recipe for, let's say, raisins or maybe some extra nuts, this could totally be the base of your homemade granola as well. The only difference would be in the way that you make them, of course. When you're making this into a granola bar, you're going to be using some sort of nut butter and maple syrup. If you're going to be making it into a granola, you can use butter and maple syrup. So easy. But I showcased both of these recipes in my last video in case you missed it, so go back and check that out as well. Okay, I'm gonna get this stored away, and then we're on to recipe number 5. We're almost there. We are going to be making a homemade pancake or waffle mix. Now this really could go either way depending on what you are feeling that day. If you watch my last video, I showcased my waffle recipe and my sheet pancake recipe. This mix is so similar to both of them that you could definitely swap it in. So we're gonna start with 6 cups of flour. I'm going to be using 4 cups of white and 2 cups of whole wheat for this one. We're gonna do 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt, another little sprinkle of cinnamon, 3 tablespoons of baking powder, and then we'll do 1/4 cup of sugar. Well, there you have it. These are 5 super easy baking mixes that you can have on hand at all times, so you can quickly whip up some snacks for your family whenever they need them. If this video helped you at all, please consider subscribing, and if you would be interested in a part 2 or even a course outlining how to start cooking from scratch, please let me know. I love to hear from you. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you more than you know. Bye.